absolute deadline to get all these votes counted?
Well, right now we're looking at 3 p.m. on Thursday, as we've been reporting, and Ryan Knowles has been reporting from Tallahassee. 3 p.m., 67 counties in Florida, 8.5 million votes have to be recounted. Now, in one county, in Palm Beach County, they said that they'll be able to get to that deadline. However, they will only be able to get to the deadline on the Senate race. So if you're in the agriculture commissioner's race or you are in that governor's race, you have got to be looking and wondering why Palm Beach County can't get their act together. But so what happens? So the deadline is 3 p.m. If there's a hand recount that will be ordered if the margin in any of these races is less than 0.25%. Again, all these races are less than 0.5. That's why we have a machine recount. After the machine recount, if it's less than 0.25%, that's when we start going into the hands. And then what happens when we do that? Well, after we do that, this is it. The deadline again, 3 o'clock, go to the hand recount. Here's the deal. The hand recount is only for the undervotes and the overvotes. You got to wonder, what is the undervote? The undervote is voters who didn't pick someone for every race, and the overvote is voters who chose more than one candidate. Let's just talk deadlines. Thursday, deadline, 3 p.m., unless a court comes in and overturns that. A court will be meeting Wednesday on a separate issue having to do with provisional ballots as well. They'll meet in Tallahassee, a federal court. And then, of course, on Friday, military ballots come in, overseas ballots come in, which go back to your tweet from the president earlier, Brooke, when he said no more counting should happen. Very interesting that the president would say this right around Veterans Day, and you have veterans, or rather active military serving overseas, trying to get their votes back to Florida.
I want to ask you, because we're also watching very closely the Senate race in Arizona, and it's interesting to me that in Florida, where you have the Republicans are ahead saying, you know, stop counting the votes. But in Arizona, where Republicans are behind, they're like, whoa, 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 keep counting.
Yeah, well, because, I mean, look, at this point right now, we've seen a different tack taken by Arizona Republicans, and that's because there's been a lot of pressure on Arizona Republicans amongst themselves. The fact of the matter is that we've seen the Martha McSally campaign say, move forward with the count, and let's get this done correctly. And, of course, Kyrsten Sinema, who's benefiting, or so far has benefited from the count, of course, likes to see that. We'll have to see when that count eventually ends, when all the votes come in. But right now, Kyrsten Sinema has that lead, Brooke.
Mark Preston, thank you very much. We move to, and Democrats haven't officially taken over the House yet, but they are already preparing for their investigations into Trump, what they plan to focus on ahead. And former First Lady Michelle Obama opening up in this new interview about her relationship with the current First Lady, Melania Trump, and what went through her mind standing there at a rainy inauguration. For President Trump is taking aim at Puerto Rico again. CNN has learned Trump wants to cut off relief funding that is helping the island after Hurricane Maria. As you well know, recovery has been excruciatingly slow. Full power was only restored in August, nearly a year after the devastation. In the past, Trump has repeatedly dismissed the hurricane death toll that now places the number around 3,000. Sarah Westwood is at the White House for us. And so, Sarah, you tell me, how was the administration planning on doing this?
Well, Brooke, the president is looking to make sure that Puerto Rico is left out of the spending bills that Congress will hammer out over the next few weeks. The White House has signaled to congressional leaders that any supplemental spending bill that sets aside money for southern states that were ravaged by recent hurricanes should not include any additional funding for the recovery effort in Puerto Rico. Now, the president has repeatedly vented his frustrations about the Puerto Rican recovery effort, for example, by disputing the death toll that placed the loss of life around 3,000. He's claimed that Democrats had somehow falsely inflated the number of the dead in the aftermath of Hurricanes Irma and Maria in order to attack his administration's response to the hurricanes. That, of course, is not true. And more recently, the president has accused Puerto Rican leaders of using relief funds to pay down their debts. But, of course, the more than $16 billion the Trump administration has appropriated for the relief efforts in Puerto Rico has gone to reconstruction, to infrastructure repairs, not to paying down the debt. But White House aides and congressional sources tell me and my colleague Liz Landers that Trump's views on more funding for Puerto Rico have been known on Capitol Hill for a while now. One White House aide told me, Brooke, that one of the reasons why the Trump administration wants to block funding from Puerto Rico is because Puerto Rican leaders haven't spent all the money they've been appropriated so far, so they must not need any more help.
I'm sure many people down there would obviously feel differently. Sarah Westwood, thank you so much at the White House for us. Meantime, Democrats are gearing up for a fight. Come the new year, they will have control of the U.S. House of Representatives, and with their new power, they could target President Trump with a number of probes. The first one focusing on Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Here is the likely next chairman of the House Judiciary Committee.
Our very first witness after January 3rd, we will subpoena or we will summon, if necessary, subpoena Mr. Whitaker.
If he doesn't recuse himself, if he has any involvement whatsoever in this Russia probe, we are going to find out whether he made commitments to the president about the probe. Mr. Whitaker needs to understand that he will be called to answer, and any role that he plays will be exposed to the public.
Let's go to CNN politics reporter Chris Cillizza. And Chris Cillizza, I wanted to have you talk to us on the show about all the potential subpoena, the so-called hit list, right, the Democrats could have in store for Trump come next year.
Well, and look, Brooke, because we don't have that much time, I'm going to run through these things quickly. We could have built a bigger graphic than this. Notice how this says key targets. But we're going to start with Russia, which is down over here. Okay. We know the situation with the Russia investigation. Robert Mueller continues to investigate. Donald Trump continues to call it a witch hunt and a hoax. Matt Whitaker throwing in there. You heard Adam Schiff, the likely chairman of the Intelligence Committee, mentioning what involvement he might have. So this is going to be very Robert Mueller dependent. Okay, that's number one. Let's go to the next one. Okay, you recognize that guy, Jim Comey. Now, his firing, which is back in May 2017, has become, we believe, a focus, or at least a piece of the focus, of the Mueller investigation. Was it obstruction of justice? Comey has kept a lot of memos that seem to suggest that what Donald Trump is saying publicly doesn't comport with reality. So, again, sort of Mueller dependent, but not entirely dependent. So we'll see. Okay, next. Okay, this one to me is a big deal. The Wall Street Journal reported last week, kind of got lost in the election, back and forth, that there are lots of sources and documents saying Donald Trump was intimately involved in the coordination of the hush payments made by Michael Cohen to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Big deal, especially because, remember, Michael Cohen said that under oath. We might get more information on that. Okay, let's go to the next one. Taxes. Remember, Donald Trump, Brooke, the only president in the modern era not to release any of his tax returns. He was also the only major party presidential candidate not to ever release his tax returns. He continues to say as recently as a press conference last week, well, they're under audit, they're under continuous audit, you wouldn't understand. Well, my guess is House Democrats would like to try to understand and at least look at them. Okay, so that's taxes. Let's go to the next one. Family business over here. Now, we know there's a very complicated thing called the emoluments clause. The issue is Donald Trump benefiting from the fact that his name is still on lots of hotels? You have foreign dignitaries, foreign governments staying in his hotels. Is he reaping some kind of benefit there? We don't know, but again, worth investigation. Let's go to the next one. Okay, cabinet chaos. This puts it lightly. We have had a lot of controversy, self-created and otherwise, from the Trump cabinet. Ryan Zinke, the Interior Secretary, currently under fire. We've had people resign. We've had questions about Wilbur Ross, who's right there. This will be an attempt, I think, by Democrats to say, what do we know about these things? What can we ask questions about? Are these people misusing public office? Let's go to the next one. Hurricane Maria. As you heard Sarah talk about, Donald Trump very adamant that no more money goes there. He has also raised questions on Twitter and elsewhere about whether the death toll in Puerto Rico actually matches up with reality. So I think you're going to see Democrats dig into this because there's a lot of questions here, and Donald Trump is very outspoken about it. Let's go next. Family separations, another huge deal, Brooke. I know it feels like I'm saying these are all big deals, but look, this is Donald Trump's border policy. Is he going to change it? We know this is he has created this situation. Is he going to solve it? Democrats feel extremely passionately about it. Obviously, we're not hearing too much about the caravan these days from Donald Trump. And I think, do we have one more, or did I do them all? I think I did them all.
I think you hit them all. I know, it's a lot, though.
Then we got this guy in the middle. That's the key.
Right.
You know what's not on here, by the way, Brooke, is impeachment or anything like that, because I don't think that's in the top of Democrats' wish list. Listen to Adam Schiff. Listen to Nancy Pelosi. The question is, for Nancy Pelosi to get elected Speaker, which I think is likely, does she have to make a deal with liberals in the caucus that she does something related to impeachment Donald Trump? If not articles of impeachment, something that allows them to be on the record. And what is that? Keep an eye on that, I think, over the next week or two. But these are the more substantive issues. And as you can see, there are a ton of them.
Yeah, no, this morning I saw a list of 85. So thank you for the key
we didn't fit that on here.
That'd be a lot of Be a lot of little circles. Chris, Eliza, thank you for hitting the high points. I appreciate it,
Brooke.
or the low points, I guess, depending on your perspective there. Coming up here, an air traffic controller at an airport in Las Vegas starts slurring her words, talking to pilots for roughly 40 minutes. Hear what happened next. And what we're learning, details about a photo appearing to show high school students with their hands raised like the Nazi salute. Where in America this happened, and reaction now from the school district. Heard this one? A Las Vegas air traffic controller is no longer on the job after slurring her words and giving pilots confusing commands for 40 entire minutes. The baffling interactions all captured on air traffic control audio. Here is a clip.
Go ahead. Radar contact. Close the land.
Somebody up there that knows what they're doing.
760, runway 11, clear to go.
Say that again.
Frontier 762, runway 11, clear to go.
Okay, confirm it's Frontier 262, clear for takeoff, one right.
Sorry, Frontier 262, runway 11, clear to go. Sorry, I'm choking a little bit. United 448, correct. Let's just do right. That's point.
Okay, that's terrifying. Renee Marsh is with us, our aviation and government regulation correspondent. Renee, who is this lady?
I know. You know, the FAA is not telling us because they're citing privacy concerns, but you can hear from that audio there. It was very difficult to make out what she was saying. That air traffic controller, Brooke, she eventually became unresponsive. It was actually a male controller returning from his break who discovered her and quickly took over communicating with the pilots. Now, the FAA is telling us that they are investigating the situation. The agency says that as a result, they've changed its overnight shift staffing policies. So now the FAA requires in the first 90 minutes of the midnight shift, and depending on the volume of traffic, there must be 2 controllers in the air traffic control tower at all times. Now, the agency says in this instance where that controller was incapacitated, she was the only one in the tower. Again, they're not saying who she is or even how or why she became incapacitated for privacy concerns, but it is clear this is a troubling scenario because, you know, air traffic controllers, they are critical in helping commercial aircraft take off and land safely. All that said, the agency says that this didn't cause any safety incidents, but the fact of the matter is it could easily have caused a safety incident, and so it really is concerning. The FAA says that the female controller is now no longer employed with the agency, Brooke.
Yeah, can't imagine she has a job to go back to. Renee Marsh, thank you very much. And then this group photo of a bunch of Wisconsin high school students is drawing all kinds of condemnation and possibly an investigation by police. This photo shows a group of boys appearing to pose, making the Nazi salute outside a spring junior prom. Ryan Young is our CNN national correspondent who's been working on this one for us today. And Ryan, why?
It's 2018, Brooke. 2018. This photo is showing something hard to believe. High school kids from Baraboo, Wisconsin, posing before junior prom, appearing to make that racist Nazi gesture. Look at all the rows of the teens, all dressed up with smiles on their faces. One of the teens in the front row appears to be using his hand to make a white national sign with his hand. This photo was taken in Baraboo, a city of about 12,000 in Wisconsin, about 116 miles away from Milwaukee. Now, the superintendent of schools there has released a statement, which in part reads, the school district is investigating this situation and is working with parents, staff, and local authorities. The gesture is what it appears to be. The district will pursue any and all available and appropriate actions, including legal, to address the issue. Now, look, after this started circulating on the internet, we started seeing responses from people about the culture at the school. Brooke, this is far from being over because today at 4 o'clock there will be a community meeting. But as you can imagine, people are worried about this gesture and the fact that it's been online for some time. A lot of conversations still to be had, and who sparked this, that's the big question at this point.
Let's talk about this again and fallouts and ramifications. Ryan Young, thank you very much. Coming up in a new interview, former First Lady Michelle Obama opens up about what she was really thinking during President Trump's inauguration. And guess what? We now have a response from Melania Trump. And in a word, it's blunt. Just in, First Lady Melania Trump is now responding to former First Lady Michelle Obama after it was revealed that Melania had yet to reach out for any advice on being First Lady. So first, here is what Michelle Obama shared.
One of the things you learn as a former, it's like, I don't judge what a current is doing, you know. So I'd prefer not to, you know, speak on what she's doing versus what I did, because I think every First Lady approaches this job differently.
I know that Laura Bush reached out to you and said, if you need any help, I'm a phone call away.
Yep.
You wrote about how, and have talked about how you extended that same courtesy to Melania Trump. Has she reached out to you and asked for any help?
No, she hasn't.
Kate Bennett is with us, our CNN White House reporter. And so, all right, so that is the Michelle Obama side of things. You just got a statement from the current First Lady. What is she now saying about this?
So I reached out just to see if there was a comment from the First Lady's office, and there is. Stephanie Grisham, Melania Trump's spokesperson, says Mrs. Trump is a strong and independent woman who has been navigating her role as First Lady in her own way. When she needs advice on any issue, she seeks it from her professional team within the White House. So clearly, she's saying Mrs. Trump hasn't needed Mrs. Obama's help. When she does need advice, she is not, has not needed to turn to Mrs. Obama. You know, clearly this is a First Lady, and I've said this here before, in her office, who feels sometimes when she is attacked, or I don't want to say attacked because perhaps Michelle Obama wasn't attacking, but when she feels like she's being discussed and she's not involved in the conversation, she likes to put herself back in the conversation.
One of the fascinating tidbits of Robin Roberts' conversation with Michelle Obama was when she was talking about, you know, when she was sitting there in the rain, you know, at Trump's inauguration, and about how she tried to smile. What did she say?
You know, she discussed just how different the inaugural celebrations were in terms of the audience, the diversity, the sort of vast difference between the people in attendance at Barack Obama's inauguration and what she was seeing at President Trump's inauguration. Certainly, the country was coming out of a very divisive campaign and presidential election, and Michelle Obama was looking around and seeing different faces, different people, certainly not reflective of the folks that supported her husband in a lot of ways, and felt that she didn't want to have the optics of smiling when she personally didn't feel like smiling.
Kate Bennett, thank you very much on all these First Ladies. Coming up next, it has been 1 week since that mass shooting at the Borderline Bar in Thousand. Enough. LeBron James's Lakers and the Atlanta Hawks warmed up last night in shirts to honor the victims killed in the latest mass shooting at a bar in Thousand Oaks, California. Players wore the word enough. Games of fraud flying around Florida this hour as officials are racing to recount ballots into razor-thin races ahead of a Thursday deadline. Now at least one county says it won't meet it. Details ahead, and we are keeping an eye on the markets. The Dow falling nearly 600 points ahead of the closing bell, 7 minutes away. Apple stock down about 5%. We'll be right back.
I've seen your show, and I watch you sit down, you eat like some mouse head soup, and then you go, it's delicious. Just curious to see when you eat the hard-boiled egg if you're going to say this is delicious. There's a plate.
Thank you. Eggs, the perfect food. Thank you, sir.
Eat that. I don't think I've ever cooked for anybody before.
Well, I'm honored, sir.
You didn't say the egg was delicious.
You
did not.
But I ate 2 of them. Silence is the highest compliment. Just the gnashing of my jaws. And those delicious, delicious eggs.
Final episode of Parts Unknown aired last night here on CNN, and I just wanted to end the show today hearing from a man so many of you admired. And let me tell you, meeting the man was a dream. The episode highlighted Tony's love of Manhattan's Lower East Side, including the punk rock scene, and the whole episode ended with the song You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory. And I just wanted to say we miss you around here, Tony, every single day. The lead the lead starts right now.